Alright, Part 211, the rules of practice, Subpart 8, General, 211-1, General, 211-3, Participation, Interest Person, 211-5, Regulatory Document Filing, 211-7, Filing Requirements, 211-9, Content of the Rulemaking, Waiver Petition, Subpart B, the Rulemaking Petition, 211-1, 211-11, Process for the Petition for the Rulemaking, 211-13, Initial Completion of the Rulemaking Procedure, 211, Notification, Participation, 211-17, Publication, Content for the Notice, 211-19, Extension for the Time of the Comment, 211-21, Consideration, Comments Proceed, 211-23, Additional Proceeding, Public Proceedings, 211-25, Hearing, 211-27, Public Adopted Rules, Withdrawal Notice, 211-29, Petition for Consideration, Final Ruling, 211-31, Proceeding the Petition for Reconsideration, Final Rule, 211-33, Direct Rule, Final Rule, Making Procedure, Subpart C, Waivers, 211-41, Procedure, Process for the Petition, and Waiver the Safety Rules, 211-43, Process for the Other Waiving Petitions, 211-45, Petition, the Emergency Waiver the Safety Rules, Subpart D, Emergency Orders, 211-47, Review Procedures, Subpart E, Miscellaneous Safety-Related Proceedings and Inquiries, 211-51, Test, 211-53, Single Application, 211-55, Special Approval of the Petition of Reconsideration, 57, 211-59, Proceeding with the decision of reconsideration, 211-61, Informal Safety requires support after the interment procedure of the review of the emergency orders, 211-71, General, 211-73, Presiding Officer, Power, 211-75, the evidence, and 211-77, Appeal to the Administrator. Appendix A to the Part 211, the statement of the agency policy concerning the waiver of the relay of the share of the use of the track of the right of the light rail and the conventional operations. Authority Title 49 U.S. Standard Code 20103, 20107, 20111 and 4, 201-306, 201-502, 201-504, Title 49 CFR 149, Source 41, Federal Register 54181, December 13, 1976, otherwise noted. Alright, Subpart 8, General, the part prescribed the rulemaking practice to apply with the rulemaking, the waiver, the proceed with the review of the emergency or for the issue within Title 45 U.S. Standard Code 432 of the miscellaneous safety related proceeding, the informal safety requirements, specific time and limits of disposition, the proceeding that they apply with the proceeding that initiated December 31st, 1976, under the Federal Road Safety Act, 1970, Title 45 U.S. Standard Code 421. When they are warranted with that, will extend with the time and limits of individual proceeding. However, the review of the proceeding with the Federal Road Safety Act shall be disposed within 12 months after the day of this, However, each of the proceeding under the Federal Road Safety Act shall be disposed within 12 months after the day of the which initiated the proceeding shall be initiated at the time of the hearing. The disposition shall begin with the day of the petition application comply with the requirements for this chapter to pursue with the person that's initiated. As it says in the statute 211-7, that even this part administrative means the Federal Road Administrative Deputy Administrative Delegate, either of them. Waiver that includes the exemptions to 3 Safety Act, the means of the Federal Road Safety Act of 1970 amendment to the Title 40 U.S. Standard Codes 421 and 10 sequence. 4. Docket Clerk means the Docket Clerk official of the Chief Counsel of the Federal Road Administration, 1200 New Jersey Avenue Southeast, Mail South 10, but the Washington, D.C. 20590 with the Docket Clerk of the U.S. Department of Transportation, Docket M30 with the West Building, ground floor, room 412, W12 140 100 1200 New Jersey Avenue Southeast, Washington, D.C. 20590 with the 0001 Railroad Safety Meeting. Safety Board means the Railroad Safety Board Office of Safety of the Federal Road Administration, Washington, D.C. 20590. Records relating to proceeding requires up to the part with available to inspection provided in Part 7 of the style of participation and interest of the person. Any person participating in the proceeding requires up to the part with submitting the written information, the review of the administrator made the permanence of the person and participated in additional proceeding with less than informal appearance of the hearing of the transcript of the minimum minutes of the cabinet of the informed the administrator of the action protecting the public interest. Or 211-5, regulatory docket of the records of the Federal Railroad Administrator created at the end of November 1st, 1998, with the concerning each of the proceedings up to the Department to maintain with the current docket of the Federal document of the management. The reports include the rulemaking, the waiver of the petition, the emergency order, notification, comments of the received, the response of the notice for the hearing, the transcript, the final rules, denial of the rulemaking, participation, granted, denial of the waiver of the other petition, that would include the records pertaining to the application of the special approval of Title 1155 and 23821, with the draft position with the grandfathering approval of the 238-203, with the draft of the signal application for the notice of the 235 and 236 of the chapter on informal safety and inquiry of the 211-61. Any person examining the document material created within November 1st, 1998, as the U.S. Department of Transportation docket operation West Building, ground floor, room 4, W12 140 with the 1200 New Jersey Avenue Southeast, Washington, D.C. 20590, with a copy of the docket materials may be obtained with the payment of the fee for the prescribed in the Federal docket of the management system through the Internet. Regulations that go over the document materials available to the viewing the document may be downloaded electronic and storage. Printing with is no charge of the service. The records of the Federal Administrative Decree of the normal November 1st, 1998, the concerning the proceedings of the Department available to the FRA DAC with the Office of the 1200 New Jersey Avenue, Southeast Washington, D.C. 20590, with any person to examine the DAC of the material, the location, terminal, no number of positions of the cabinet of the DAC of material is obtained with the payment of the fees prescribed in Part 7 of the title. Any person to examine the DAC of material of the Office is aware that the obtained copy of the DAC of the material other than commercially prepared transcripts may be obtained with the payment of the fees prescribed in Part 7 of the title. Alright, 211.7, filing requirements. Any proof of the petition administrator issuing the amendment of the repeal of the permanent temporary waiver of the beginning with the rule regulation petition for the waiver that must be submitted at least 3 months before the proposed effective date unless they recover the good cause of shown of not doing so. B1, all petition applications include the application for the special approval under 211.55, 238.21, the chapter petition for the grandfather approval of 238.203 with the chapter signal application under Part 235 and 236 with the shall be submitted to the FRA DAC with each petition received the shall be acknowledged in writing of the acknowledgement shall contain the document number to sign with the petition application state of the date of the petition application was received within 60 days of the following receipt. The FRA will advise the petitioner of application of the deficiency of the petition application. All comments submitted to the response to the notice for the material the proceedings subject to this part include the comments subject to the response to request for the special approval within 211.55 and 238.21 of this chapter petition. Grant the authoring approval of 238.203 of this chapter with the special signal application to 235 to 236 chapter should be submitted to the federal DAC with its management system containing the assignment of the document number of the proceeding, the form of the submission of the maybe the written electronic form of the consistent with the standing the requirements of the federal document system posted on the website. Alright, 211.9, content of the rule making the waiver petition. Each petition the rule making the waiver must set with the forth the text substance of the rule regulation standard with the adjustment that proposed specify the rule regulation standard with the petition seek with the severe appeal of the waiver that may cause to explain the interest between interest of the petitioner and the need of the action of the request for the case for the petition the waiver to explain the nature of the extent of the relief solved with the identified the described person, the equipment, the installation location covered by the waiver. Contains sufficient information to support the action solved with it, including the evaluation anticipated impact of the action solved with the evaluation and should include the estimated result of the customer cause the protective for the concern with the federal, state, local governments as well as the evaluation result and benefits quantify the extent with practicable each of the position protect and safety regulations but also content relevant safety data. Subpart B, rulemaking procedure. Alright, 211.11, proceeding the position rulemaking. Each of the position of the rulemaking the file with the prescribed in 211.7 to 211.9 with refer to the head of the official of the office responsible for the subject matter of the petition for the review the recommended the appropriate action with the administrative non-public hearing or the arrangement of the argument of the held before the administrator. Decide whether the petition should be granted without over the notice of most people of the federal register and evaluating comments of the concern of the petition. Each petition should be granted denied no later than 6 months after the receipt of the docket clerk. Be granted if the administrator determined the rule making the petition compliant with the requirements of 211.9 with the rule making is justified to initiate the rule making proceeding both in advance of notice of the notice of the proposed rule making the federal register. Denial if the administrator determined the rulemaking position does not comply with the requirements of 211.9 with the rulemaker is not justified. He denied the petition and the petition pertaining to the railroad safety with the administrator may also initiate the informal safety inquiry under the 211.61 notification closing of the docket whether the administrative grant the denial for the rulemaking petition of the grant the denial made with the petition if the petition there is denied with the proceeding to terminate with the docket for the petition closed with the 211.13 the installation of the completion of the rulemaking proceeding. The administrator initiated the rulemaking proceeding with the motion of the public conveyance the notice of the proposed rulemaking the notice of the proposed rulemaking of the federal register. However, they may consider the recommendation and interested person out of their agency of the United States that upper the document itself to maintain each for the rulemaking procedure. If the rulemaking procedure shall be completed no later than 12 months after the initial notice of the proceeding published within the federal register. However, the administration initiated the result of the granting of rulemaking the petition rulemaking the procedure shall be completed no later than 12 months after the petition filed with the prescribed in 211.7 and 211.9. 211.15 notice of participation. They accept the paragraph the C of the section of the administrative that defines the good finds good cause with the notice for the impractical to unnecessary contrary with the public interest in the incorporated finding of the brief the statement the reason therefore the approval of the advance notice of the notice proposed the rulemaking the public federal register for the interest of the person with the invited with the particular rulemaking proceeding with respect to the substantive rule. Unless the administrator determines the notice of the public rulemaking procedure is necessary, desirable, and interpretive of the rules general Generally, statement of the policy rules pertaining to the organization procedure practice included relating to the agencies and management of personnel to prescribe the final without notice without the public rulemaking of advance of the notice for the notice proposed rulemaking issue for the interest of the public person invited with participation in the rulemaking proceeding with respect to those procedure with the substantive rules generated general applicable ability to relating to public property loans grants for the benefits of contract with the administrator determined substantial public interest. 211.17 publication and content of the notice. Each of the advance of the notice of the proposed rulemaking the published in the Federal Register included the statement at the time of the place of the nature of the proposed rulemaking the proceeding the reference of the authority under the issue the issue the description of the subject of the involved with the substance and the term of the proposed use rule of the statement of the time within the which of the written comments must be submitted with the required number of copies of the statement and how and what the extent of the interest the person made to participate in the proceeding. 211.19 petition extension for the time to comment. Any person with the petition furnished for the extent of the time to submit the comments to respond with an advance notice of the notice proposed with the rulemaker. The petition must receive the FRA act with the court no later than 10 days before the expiration time stated of the notice of the mower containing the reference of the FRA act of the number of the proceedings involved with the filing of the petition does not automatically extend with the time of the petitioner's comments. Or the administrative grant of the petition with only with the petitioner show the substantial range for the proposed rulemaking good cover the extent of the time of the permits of the extension of the public interest. The extension will not be granted unless the time of the permit not exceed each of the 1 month. If the extension for the grant is granted, the older person know of the extension of the published in Federal Register. 211.21 consideration comments received all timely comments considered with the final act for the conducting of the rulemaking procedure prior to the late file of the comments will be considered so far as possible without incurring the additional expenses. 211.23 additional public proceeding. The additional administrative may conduct the public proceeding that finds necessary desirable for the example that may invite the interested person in personal or arguments to participate in conference appear to informal hearings. 211.25 hearings. A hearing will be held to require the statute for the administrator find it necessary desirable except for the statutory hearing with required to be on the record of the hearings the fact finding with the proceeding or any of their no formal pleading of the diversity parties. Any rule used issued by in which the hearing is held but not based exclusively on the record hearing and the hearings are conducted according with Section 553. Title 5, U.S. Standard Code 556 and 557 of the Title 5 do not apply with the hearing as held under the part of the administrative conduct of the designated to represent the conduct with any of the hearing held under the part of the chief counsel with the serving the designated the number of the staff of the serving and legal of officer in public hearing. 211.27 the publication adopted rules with withdrawal of the notice. Whenever the administrator adopts the final rule withdrawal of the advance notice of the proposed measure will make the final rule notice of the withdrawal of the published in Federal Register. 211.29 petition for the reconsideration final rule. Any person petition for the administrator of the reconsideration rule and issue with the end of this part except with the good shown with the such good cause shown with the petition must be submitted no later than 60 days after the publication rule of the Federal Register. The 10 days prior to the effective date of the rule, which ever declared earlier, the petition must contain the brief statement of the complaint with explanation as to why the compliance with the rule is not possibly, particularly practically unreasonable or not in public interest. If the petitioner requests the consideration of that additional fact that he must state the reason for the whether not present with the administrator with the allotted time. The administrator does not consider the repetitious petitions unless the administrator specifically provides otherwise published with notice. Therefore, the Federal Register is filing the petition under the section does not apply to safety, does not stay effective without this rule. Alright, 211.31 proceeding with the petition reconsideration final ruling. The administrator may grant or deny the whole part of any petition reconsideration final rule with other proceeding with each petition shall decide no later than 4 months after receive the docket in event of determined the reconsideration administrator may be the amendment the rule initiate the new rule proceeding that appropriate the denial for the published in Federal Register. Whether the administrator determined the petition should be granted with the denied notice for the grant with the denial of the petition and reconsideration with the petitioner. When the petitioner is granted the notice for the published in the Federal Register, the administrator may consolidate the petition relating to the same rule. 211.33 the direct rule final rulemaking procedure rules for the administrator to judge if the non-controversial unlikely to result in the verse public comment about made above the final rule selection with the final register the directional final rule. This includes non-controversial rules or controversial rules that affect the internal procedure of the FRA of the Federal Rate Administration of the filing requirements rules of the governing inspection copy of the documents, any non-substantive clarification, correction of the existing rules, updating existing forms, making minor change to the substantive rules regarding the statistical reporting requirements of the Federal Register. The document will state the adverse comment. The notice of the intent of the submitted verse of the comment must be received in writing with the Federal Rate Administration with the specified time and after the date of the public hearing. If no writing in the adverse comment with the request for the oral hearing and such opportunity described by the statute if received that the rule will become an effective the specified number of days after the publication. No adverse no the verse comment with the request of the oral hearing received the Federal Rate Administration will specify the time of the publication. Alright, Federal Register with the Federal Rate Administration will publish the notice of the Federal Register indicating with no adverse comment to receive the conform with the rules will become effective with the day will indicate the direct final rule that for the Federal Rate Administration to receive the written adverse comment request for the oral hearing with the specified time of the publication of the Federal Register with the withdrawal with the direct final rule the published final rule selection of the Federal Register of the Federal Rate Administration to decide the rule making the warrant with the notice of the published rule making will be published and proposed the rules and make section of the Federal Register in adverse settlement the purpose of subpart means the comment of the Federal Rate Administration determine the critical of the rule such as the rule should not be adopted suggest the change should be made in the rule. Subpart C waivers. Or Subpart C 21141. Subpart C waivers 21141 processing petition waiver the safety rules. Generally, each petition for the permanent and temporary waiver with the safety rule with the regulations and filed with prescribed in 211.7 and 211.9 with the referred to the Railroad Safety Board if the decision decided not lower than 9 months after the receipt notice of the hearing is required. Notice and hearing is required by the statute administrator of the Railroad Safety Board that deems it necessary desirable notice for the public of the Federal Register within opposition with the public comment is provided at the hearing and a hearing held in accordance with 211.25 of the fourth before the petition was granted to deny the grants of the Railroad Safety Board determined the petition complied with the requirements of 211.9 with the waiver for justifying the grants petition conditions may be imposed with the grant waiver if the public board concludes that the necessary for the assure of the safety of the public interest in denial of the Railroad Safety Board determines that the petition does not comply with the requirements of 211.9 with the waiver does not justify but denies the petition notification whenever the Railroad Safety Board grants denies the petition for the grant the denial of the stamp with the petition when the petition has been decided interested persons all notified and notice of the public of the Federal Register petition reconsideration a person may petition for the reconsideration grant denial of the waiver under the procedure set forth in 211.57 each petition to be processed in accordance with 211.59. Alright, 211.43 processing other waiver of the petition generally except the provided in 211.41 each of the permanent petition permanent with the temporary waiver of the rules regulations stamp shall be filed within process as prescribed in 211.7 and 211.9 notice for the hearing if required through statute with the administrator deemed with the desirable notice for the publishing of the Federal Register and opposite for the public comment with the provided of the hearing is held in accordance with 211.25 before the petition is granted the grants and the administrator determines the petition complied with the requirements of 211.9 with the waiver to justify with the grants the waiver the condition that may be imposed with the grant waiver where the administrator concludes that the necessary to achieve the purpose for the program is affirmed effective with the grant waiver or otherwise the public interest. Denial of the administrative determines the petition does not comply with the requirements of 211.9 with the waiver does not justify the denial of the waiver of notification whenever the administrative grants the denial of the petition the notice of the grant the denial is sent with the petition when the petition has decided the interest of personnel notified with the notice of the published in the Federal Register. After petition for the reconsideration, a person may petition for the reconsideration with the grant denial with the waivers under the procedure set forth in 211.57. But each petition shall be possessed in accordance with 211.59. 211.45 petition for the emergency waiver for safety rules. Generally, section apply with the petition waiver the safety rule regulations stand with the effort to determine the directly related to the occurrence of the imminent threat with the emergency of the event with the emergency situation for the purpose of effect from the emergency event with the emergency situation mean natural and man-made disaster such as a hurricane, flood, earthquake, mudslide, force, snowstorm, terrorist act, biological outbreak, release of the dangerous radiological, chemical, explosive, biological material, a war-related activity that poses the risk of death, serious illness, severe injury, substantial property damage, and the disaster may be local, regional, and national scope. The emergency relief docket, each for the calendar year of the FAA creates the emergency relief docket of the public accessibility for federal rule, making the portal of the FE, the federal e-rule, making portal accessible to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, leave the internet with the docket, the website with the regulations.gov, all the documents of the federal rule making portal are available to inspection, complying with the website that are available to exemption of the docket management facility website West Building, ground floor building W12140 with the 1200 New Jersey Avenue, Southeast Washington, DC 20590 during the regular business hours 9 a.m. through 5 p.m. to January 31st each for the year. A very public is noticed for the federal registration and register and identify the docket number of the ERD for that year. The notice for also placed in the previous year for the ERD to identify the new docket number. Alright, see the determining the existing of the emergency event with the emergency situation. The administrative determined the emergency event with the emergency situation on the paragraph they check from the occur for the imminent threat of the occurrence for the except the determined the public safety recover the effects for the effort of the provision section of the implemented the administrative of the activity for the emergency relief docket the identifying the paragraph B of the section. And determination within emergency except for the administrative the conservative declaration of the emergency by the local and state federal official determination of the federal government with the credible threat of the terroristic acts if the acts exist. Notification with impossible the effort will post the FRA administrative the determination described in the paragraph C with the section on the website the FRA.gov. The effort will also place the FRA administrative determination in the emergency relief docket as soon as practicable. Alright, contents for the petition. Emergency waiver. The petition submitted for the effort pursuant to the section should specifically address how the petition related with the emergency to the extent practical contain the information required in 211.9 A and B with the petition should be at the minimum with the described following how the petitioner and public effect is affected by the emergency, including an impact of the railroad operation of the FRA regulation implicated with the emergency if they moved with the defective equipment, and how the waiver that implicated the regulation would benefit the petitioner during the emergency, how long the petitioner and described with the be affected with the emergency. Following the requirements petition filed under section should be submitted using the following methods: email with the FRA with the RRS correspondence at FRA.gov, the fast mile FRA 202-493-6309. 3 by mail the FRA DAC of the clerk of the office of the chief of the council, RCC 10 of the mail stop 10 1200 New Jersey Avenue, Southeast Washington, DC 20590. Or if it says mile number 202-493-6068. Alright, FRA handling an initial review. Upon receipt of the initial review petition, whether they verify the meets the criteria due for the emergency procedure for the FRA will add the position of the emergency relief doc of the federal rule making portal. Number of the documents out of the document. For example, the first document submitted with the document 2009 will be identified by the FRA 2009 XX1. Thus, each of the positions submitted with the emergency relief document will have the new document number that should be identified on all communication with the position pertaining with the document. The effort to determine the position does not meet the criteria of the emergency procedures. Therefore, will notify the petitioner with the process of petitioning them under the normal way with the procedure. Subpart comments. Although the administrator may waive the compliance with the aim with the part of the regulation prescribed in order to without the prior note for the comments, if the comments may be submitted, the comments must be submitted as soon as possible after the petition available to the federal e-rule making portal. The comment received will be considered with the extent practical with all the comments should identify the appropriate emergency rule docket. Should identify the specific document with the position designated with the federal rulemaking portal with the emergency relief docket. Interested part of the comment, the petition under the section that should also include the comments of the emergency relief docket, the telephone numbers at which the representative may be reached, and it appears the party may submit their comments using the following methods. Alright, email with the FRA of the RRS corresponds to FRA dot the fast mile of FRA 202-493-6309, mail to the docket of the management facility west building ground floor of the rooms 4 W12 140 1200 New Jersey Avenue, Southeast Washington, DC 20590. Electronic via the internet regulations.gov. The comments or information sent directly to the FRA will immediately provide the federal rule-making portal with the exclusion of the emergency relief docket. The request of the hearing, although the administrator may waive the compliance with any part of the regulations described in the order issued with the prior notice for the commitment of the prescribed part of the described in the public hearing, the petition process of the section must not notify the FRA through the comments process with identified paragraph H of the section within 72 hours of the close of the business 1 day with the petition close of the business of 1 day the petition intends with available the federal making rule portable to respond to request of the public hearing. The FRA may arrange a telephone conference between the insurance provider provided the opportunity to oral comment. Arrange public hearing pursuant to the provisions contained in the Title 49 CFR, particularly 11, to determine the public hearing on ministry consistent and safety of non-public interest. Or J, decision the FRA may grant the petition with the waiver without the prior notice for the commitment. The administrator determined that the public interest is granted the waiver. The waiver is not inconsistent with the railroad safety with the waiver necessary to address the actual impending emergency situation, emergency event. The administrator will stay with the decision issued within the section of the region with the grant waiver. When the FRA reserve the right to reopen any of the docket, reconsider the decision made, but assuming these emergency procedures based upon its own initiative based on the information commandments otherwise received through the FRA decision letter, either granting or denying the petition will post the appropriate emergency relief document and will derive from the document number the position to which it relates. 3. A waiver under the section may be issued for the period of not more than 60 days may be renewed. The applicant and the administrator only after the notice of the opportunity of the hearing of the waiver. The administrator will immediately revoke the waiver if the continuation of the waiver would not be consistent with the goals and objectives of the part. For the granting of the waiver, the section of the administrator will consult with the act, coordinate with the other federal agencies appropriate and note the matters that may significantly impact the agencies. Subpart D. Emergency orders. Or Subpart D, emergency orders review procedures as specified in Section 203 with the law, Public Law 911 458 with 84 Statute 972 Title 45 U.S. Code 432. The opportunity to review the emergency order that is issued under the section will be provided in accordance with the Statutes 554 Title 5 of the U.S. Code. Petitions for such review to be submitted written over the Chief Office of the Council of the Federal Road Administration, Washington, D.C. 20590. Upon the receipt of the petition, will immediately contact the petitioner and make the necessary arrangements with the conference of the earliest day with accept the petitioner. It is a conference of the petitioner will afford the opportunity to submit the full facts, arguments, and proposed modification with the withdrawal of the emergency order. If the controversy is not resolved with the conference, the hearing is desired with the petitioner may submit the written request for the hearing within 15 days after the conference. The hearing will commence with 14 calendar days if the receipt of the request was conducted within accordance with Section 55(6) and 575 of the Title 5 for U.S. Standard Code. Each petition review should be decided no later than 3 months after the receipt. Alright, 3 months after the receipt, unless stated modified the administrative requirement, the emergency order shall be remain in effect for the preserved pending the decision on the petition for the review. Or Subpart E, miscellaneous safety related proceedings and inquiries, 21151 tests. Pursuant to the Department of Transportation Act of the 80 Statute 931 and 49, U.S. Standard Code 1651, intent sequence Federal Road Safety Act of 1970, 84 Statute 971, 45, U.S. Standard Code 421, 431 through 441. Both of the administrators may temporarily suspend the complying with the substance of the rule of the Federal Administration if the suspension is necessary for the conduct of the Federal Administration, improve the test program, to evaluate the effectiveness of the new technology operational approaches. They would insulate with the furtherance of the President proposed rulemaking proceedings submitted limited in scope of the application. Such relief that may be necessary to facilitate the conduct of the test program, the suspension for the conduct of the observance of the standard position, assure safety when the required statute of the notice of the published in the Federal Register. Is cooperating with the provided the comment the public hearing is held in accordance with 21125 with the FRA to approve the test program implemented when the administrator approved the suspension compliant with any of the rule of the connection with the test program, the description of the test program containing with the explanatory statement of the response within paragraph 8 of the section of the published in Federal Register. 21153 signal application. The application will approve the continuation material modification signal system authorized in 235 waive with the requirement of Part 236 of the chapter must be submitted in accordance with the 211 the handle of the accordance with the press sheet set forth in 235 36 with respect to decided no later than 9 months after the receipt when the decision is issued. The applicant and the other interested parties are notified and notice of the publishing in the Federal Register. 21155 special approval. The request of special approval to protect the safety and otherwise provided in this chapter must be submitted within accordance with 211.7 specifying the action requested of these requests and should be considered with the Railway Safety Board. Appropriate action should be taken no later than 9 months after the receipt when the decision is issued. The requester or the other interested party notified with the notice published in Federal Register. 21157 addition to the reconsideration of any person may petition the administrator of the reconsideration final action taken of the procedure subject to subpart C and E of the part of the petition must specify the particular grounds with modification and revocation action with the question the administrator does not consider the repetition of petitions unless the administrator specifically provides the authority otherwise no notice of the interested parties publishing the notice of the Federal Register of the petition under the section does not state the effectiveness of the action sought and to be reconsidered. Proceedings on petition reconsideration administrative may be invited with the comment of seeking the response of the party with whose request for the final action was taken the signing the petition reconsideration submitted in 21157. The administrator may reaffirm the modify the revoke of the final action without further proceedings shall issue the notification of the decision petition or other interested parties publishing over the Federal Register. Each petition reconsideration is decided no later than 4 months after the receipt of the petition reconsideration relating to the same rule may consolidate the decision in advance of the administrator to determine the reconsideration final action the appropriate notice of the published in the Federal Register. Alright, 21161 informal security safety inquiry. The administrator may conduct an informal security safety inquiry to collect information on the top of the building of the railroad safety renewal for the receipt of the inquiry published in the Federal Register outlining the area of the inquiry, inviting the interested person and assist with the submitting the rating material, the participating in informal material public and conference discussion. Upon the completion of the inquiry, the administrator will review the information obtained, may have its own motion and initiate the rulemaking procedure under Title 1113 whether the action deems appropriate. Or Subpart F, the interim procedure of the review and emergency orders. Alright, Subpart F, interim procedure for the review of the emergency orders. 21171, those subpartly consider the interim procedure for the review of the emergency of the orders issued within Section 203 Federal Road Safety Act of 1978, supplementing 21147 of the proceeding under the subpart subject to the requirements of Title 5 U.S. Standard Code 554, 559, notwithstanding 211.1 for the part you within subpart administrative meeting with the Federal Administrator, the Deputy of the Administrator. 21173, presiding officer for power of the administrator, the hearing of the review of the emergency over the presiding officer over the administrator of the bad laws, judge designated with the FR pursuant to Title 5 of the U.S. Standard Code CFR 930, 211, and 22130. The proceeding officer may exercise the power of the FR to regulate the conduct of the hearing, the associated proceeding purpose of achieving the province of the following fair determination of all materials issued for the controversy. The final decision of the presiding officer shall set forth the finding of the conventional conclusion based on the administrative record. The decision may be set aside with the modified the firm of the requirements of the emergency order under the review. Except provided in 21177, the decision of the presiding officer is administratively for the final evidence for the federal rule of evidence for the United States Court of the Magistrate shall be employed with the general guidelines with the instruction evidence for the proceeding under the part, however they accept the paragraph B with the section all relevant probative evidence or order offered the party shall be received and evidence the president adding officer remained to deny the admission of the evidence if it is determined to be unduly repetitive of the so extent lacking the relevance of probative effect of the admission that would be impaired with the prompt orderly and fairly resolution proceedings. 21177, the plea of the administrator, and any aggravated final decision presiding officer of the administrator may apply with the administrator. The appeal must be within 20 days from the issue of the presiding officer's decision. The may subject to 4 specific exemptions. The party's decision make the reference portion of the administrative record to be believed for exceptions with that notice for the appeal and any supporting part papers should be accompanied but certified and stating that they have been served in all parties proceeding and B is reserved. Alright, and then I'm going to cut the tape.